Dear students, in the previous class we have gone through the basic concepts of graph theory. Now we will move to the very next topic called regular graph. Before going to the theoretical definition, first I will deal with the examples related to the regular graph theory to understand the definition of graph theory. So, definition of a regular graph. Let us consider a graph. I will take it as G1. G1 has three vertices, V1, V2, V3. G2, it has four vertices, V1, V2, V3, V4. I will take one more graph that is called G3. Again it has some same set of vertices, that is V1, V2, V3, V4, but V1, V3 are connected here. And one more graph, G4. Again I will take a same set of vertices, that is V1, V2, V3, V4, V3, V4, but adjacency is different here. If you observe these four graphs, what here I want to convey the definition of a regular graph by taking a simple examples here. If you see, the degree of each vertex in G1 is 2, that is degree of all the vertices, I name it as Vi, here it is 2, here I is equal to 1, 2 and 3. If you take I is equal to 1, stands for a vertex V1, if you take I is equal to 2, stands for vertex V2, and if you take I is equal to 3, it stands for vertex 3. So therefore the degree of each vertex is 2 here. If you take graph 2, again the degree of each vertex is 2. So where I is equal to 1, 2, 3 and 4. If I is equal to 1, degree of V1 is equal to 2, degree of V2 is equal to 2, degree of V4 is 2, degree of V3 is 2. So in other words, degree of each vertex is 2 here. If you coming back to the graph 3, here degree of V1 is equal to degree of V3, that is degree is 3, degree of V1, V2 is equal to degree of V4 is equal to 2. In other words, degree of each vertex is not same in the graph G3. But in G4, if you observe, the degree of each vertex is same. So that is degree of Vi, where I is equal to 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, degree of each vertex is 3. So in other words, if you see the graph G4, G2, G1, in each graph degree of each vertex is same. But in a graph G3, degree of each vertex is not same. So if you observe this property in any graph, then that graph is called a regular graph. I will repeat it once again. If you observe this kind of properties in any graph, in other words, degree of each vertex is same, then that kind of graph is said to be a regular graph. Here G3 is not a regular graph. G1, G2, G3, G4 are said to be a regular graph. So now we will define the theoretical definition of a regular graph. If G means here graph is said to be regular graph or R regular graph, is said to be R regular graph if degree of each vertex is R. I will repeat it once again. If G is said to be R regular graph, this is very important statement. If G is said to be R regular graph, if the degree of each vertex is R. So then that kind of graph is said to be a regular graph. In other words, R regular graph. Coming back to the graph G1, it is also a regular graph, but if I want to define as R regular graph, here R stands for degree of each vertex. So therefore, G1 is 2 regular graphs. G1 is 2 regular graph. Similarly, G2, here degree of each vertex is 2, so therefore G2 is 2 regular graphs. G2 is 2 regular graph. Here in G3, it is not a regular graph because the degree of each vertex is not same. Coming back to the last graph, that is G4, here degree of each vertex is 3, so therefore G4 is 4 regular graphs. So in the previous class we have gone through the different types of graphs, let's say for example bipartite, so on and so forth. So in this class we are go through one more type of graph which is called a regular graph where degree of each vertex is same. Now we'll move to the next concept called isomorphism. Here isomorphism means a function f is from A to B is 1-to-1 correspondence. So then that function is said to be an isomorphism. Here if I want to prove an isomorphic graph, say for example f from G to G dash, here G is one more graph and G dash is one more graph. If I say f is an isomorphism, if it is 1-to-1 corresponding with vertex set and onto correspondence, so then that is said to be an isomorphic graph. First I will write down the basic theoretical definition of isomorphism of a graph, then I will take up a simple example. So isomorphism of a graph. Isomorphism of a graph. If G1 it has vertex set V1 and E1, G2 it has vertex set V2 and E2 at set E2 are isomorphic. Are isomorphic if there is 1-to-1, if there is 1-to-1 and onto function, if 1-to-1 and onto function f from V1 to V2 with property that vertex sets here, sets means V1 and V2, vertex sets that preserves adjacency. That preserves adjacency. Okay, now I will explain this theoretical definition of an isomorphism of two graphs by taking a simple example here. First of all, here G1 and G2, they are not two similar graphs. First question. In other words, picturization of a two graph, they are not same. Let us consider a graph. I will say it is a G1. I will take a simple example. I try to make you guys to convince this concept. It is A, it is B, C and D. I will take one more graph, that is G2, with a different set of vertices, V1, V2, V3, V4. This is one graph. Here, if you observe this G1 and G2, they are not at all similar by visualization. Now what I will do, I will use this definition, then I will show that these two graphs are same. I will repeat it once again. Here I will show that G1 and G2 are same. In other words, they are similar graph by using the isomorphic definition here. What is the isomorphic definition? I will repeat it once again. If G1 and G2, here V1 is a vertex set, V2 is a vertex set. V1 and V2 are not same, keep it in mind. E1 and E2 they are not same, keep it in mind. And I try to develop a function one-to-one and onto function, a function from V1 to V2, then I will say a graph G1 and G2 are isomorphic. In other words, if you take f from G1 to G2. It is just for rough idea, I am writing it as f from G1 to G2. What are the given data we need to write down for the first graph is, what is the vertex set? A, B, C and D. Here edge is not necessary, so therefore I am not write the edge set here. It is a vertex set V2, it is vertex set V1, because in the definition I am using as V1 and V2. V2 is V1, V2, V3 and V4. So if you try to link one by one function, if I take A is vertex V1 and B is vertex V2, here AB is connected, here V1 and V2 are not connected. So therefore we can't say just by visualizing these two are graph are same. Now what I will do, I will redraw this graph in a different manner. I will redraw this graph in a different manner. I will take it as V1, a vertex V3, it is V2 and it is V4. So this is V2 vertex and V4. V1 and V3 are connected, yes, V1 and V3 are connected. So I am equating here, same graph. V1 and V3 are connected, but V1, V2 are not connected here. V1, V4 are connected, yes, V1, V4 are connected here. V3, V2 are connected, yes, V3, V2 are connected, and V2, V4 are connected, and V2, V4 are connected. If you see this graph, I will carry the adjacency, but still these two graphs are same. Now, if you observe the first graph G1 and if you observe this graph, they are exactly the same. So then we can say it is a graph G1 and G2 are isomorphic graphs. But I have to develop a mathematical definition, means technically we need to prove it. Here A, B, C, D, V1, V2, V3 are the vertex set. So now I will develop a function from V1 to V2. Say if a function V1 to V2, let A belonging to V1, so therefore f of A belonging to it. So here V2 means capital V2 vertex set. So which implies f of A is equal to in vertex set V2, so that is V1 here. Similarly, if I take B belonging to V1, f of B also belonging to V2. So it is not equal belonging to V2. So which implies f of B, here B stands for V3. Here f of B stands for V3. C belonging to V1, so f of C is belonging to vertex at V2. So therefore, f of C, here C is this vertex, similarly V2. So which is equal to V2. And last one, last vertex, if D is belonging to vertex at V1, f of D belonging to vertex at V2. So what is the f of D in vertex at V2? F of D stands for vertex V4 in graph G2. So therefore, f of D is equal to V4. So now we need to try the adjacency in this graph. So now I'll explain by taking up adjacency, because the thing is here, if vertex set 1, 1 and R2 function, if we have to develop, last sentence is very important here. This with the property that vertex set preserves the adjacency. If A is in V1, f of A is in vertex at V2. If B is in vertex at V1, f of B is in vertex at V2, then AB is adjacent, then f of A and f of B is also adjacent. So now I will observe that property, very important property here, that is adjacency property. I will only explain one point, so it is remaining to the all vertices. If AB is in graph G1, yes, A comma B means what here? I have gone through in the very first class dealing with the definition of a graph. Ordered pair of two vertex is an edge. So here A and B is belonging to an graph G1. So therefore, ordered pair A comma B is a edge in graph G1. If A comma B is in edge in G1, correspondingly, what will be the ordered pair in graph G2? Here FA stands for what? F of A in V2, which implies F of A comma F of B in graph G2. So which implies, what is F of A I have taken here? F of A I have taken as vertex set. So that is V1. What is F of B I have taken here? F of B I have taken as V3. So V3, which is also in G2. If you see these two, A comma B is adjacent in G1, V1 comma V3 is also adjacent in G1. Similarly, we can consider the second one. If B comma C is belonging to G1, which implies, so if it is in G1, f of B is in G2, f of C in G2. So what is f of B here? F of B comma f of C, it is in G2. So which implies, what is f of B? F of B in this definition V3. So f of B stands for V3. And what is f of C? F of C stands for V2. So f of C stands for V2. So whether V3 comma V2 or V2 comma V3, V3 comma V2, it is in graph G2. So therefore, if BC is adjacent, V3, V4, V2 is also adjacent. Similarly, we can develop all these relations. So then we can say a graph G1 and G2 are similar. So now I will try to proceed further, because still two more vertices I need to be considered. AB is considered, BC is considered. Now I will consider C comma D. If C comma D is belonging to G1, if C comma D belonging to G1, which implies f of C comma f of D is belonging to graph G2. So which implies, what is f of C here? According to the definition, f of C stands for V2. So what is f of D? F of D in this definition is V4. So therefore V2, V4 are adjacent in G2. V2, V4 are adjacent in G2. So it exists. So therefore, if D comma C is adjacent in graph G1, V2, V4 is also adjacent in G2. I will take one more last line, that is a comma d. If a comma d is belonging to G1, which implies f of a, f of d is belonging to G2. So what is f of a in this definition? F of a I have defined it as V1. What is f of d? F of d I have defined it as V4 in the definition, that is V4, which is belonging to graph G2. So V1 and V2 are adjacent or not? Yes. V1 and V4 are adjacent in this graph. So therefore, if you observe the definition I have considered here, not only the cardinality of a vertex is same, and the adjacency is also similar, as G1 and G2 are same. So therefore, graph G1 and G2 are two isomorphic graphs in this example. And you have to keep it in mind, very important point you need to be noted to deal with these kind of examples. If you are trying to prove two graphs are similar, in other words isomorphic, first and foremost step is you need to see the number of vertices are same or not. If I see the number of vertices are same or not. Similarly, the number of edges are same or not. If any of these two are not same, straightforward write down the answer that G1 and G2 are not isomorphic, because it is neither carry the number of vertices nor the adjacency. So therefore, at that point a graph G is may be isomorphic or may not be isomorphic. Now, in this similar manner, we can prove n number of examples by taking a graph, two graphs, whether graphs are said to be isomorphic or not. There is an important question will arise in this case. What is the definition, or what is the example you have considered here? If I take a G1 and G2, now I cross verified whether G1 and G2 are isomorphic or not. So now whatever the examples is considered is clear. I will consider a converse case, means reverse case. If G2 is a given graph and G1 is one more given graph, a function from G2 to G1 is isomorphic or not is the question. So the answer to this question is yes, because you can redraw this graph as G2. So therefore, here G2 to G1 is also an isomorphic. If f from G to G is isomorphic, G1 to G2 is isomorphic, and the conversely G2 to G1 is also an isomorphic. So in other words, inverse exists. So therefore, this is a very important statement or a theorem in isomorphism of a graph. You can note this definition also, or as a note. I will write it here. So I will write it as a theorem. I will write it as a theorem here. Let G, here vertex set V1 and edge set as E1, and G2, I take it as V2 and E2, be any simple graph and if f from G1 to G2 is isomorphic, if G1 to G2 is isomorphic, then f inverse from G2 to G1 is also isomorphic. Now I will prove this theorem. Since f is invertible, So F is 1-to-1 correspondence as well as on-to correspondence. So we try to prove this theorem or a example. Since F from G1 to G2 is isomorphic, because it is given that F is from G1 to G2 is isomorphic, so which implies F is 1-to-1 and onto. If F is 1-to-1 and onto. So what we need to prove? We need to prove is F inverse is also isomorphic. That is to prove F inverse is 1-to-1 and onto. So in other words, first and foremost thing is we need to show whether adjacency will carry or not in this question. Let graph G1 and G2 means, here I will write G1 corresponding to vertex at V1 and E1, G2 corresponding to V2 and E2. So here from G2 to G1 we need to consider here. In other words, if I am proving a graph from G2 to G1, if two vertex, in other words edge exists in E2, we need to show that the corresponding edge exists in G1. If we show this adjacency preserves from E2 to E1, in other words G2 to G1, so then our job is done. For that, if I want to prove adjacency preserve, at least it is required to have a two vertices in graph G, either in G2. If I take V1, A comma B in V1, F of A, F of B in G2. Conversely, if I take F of A and F of B in G2, so I need to show that A comma B exists in V1. Let A comma B, let A comma B is belonging to V1. So here A comma B means A and B are the two vertices are in the vertex at V1, and you can say A comma B is also in E1. So which implies, okay, if you have confusion, I will take it as E1, where A comma B is belonging to vertex at V1. If A comma B is in E1, in other words A comma B is in V1, if and only if F of A, F of B is belonging to E2. So why this is so? Because F is 1-1 and onto, because F a function from G1 G2 is isomorphic. If this exists, if and only if this exists. If this does not exist, F of A comma F of B in E2 does not exist, means A comma B does not exist in E1, because F is isomorphic from G1 to G2. That's why I told in the previous example, adjacency preserve. If A and B are adjacent in graph G1, F of A and F of B are adjacent in G2. So in other words, F of A and F of B belonging to E2. If and only if important here. It is not one way. If they are adjacent in graph G2, the corresponding vertex is adjacent in G1. Or if these two vertices are adjacent in G1, the corresponding vertex in G2, they are also adjacent. So therefore, let A is equal to F of A and B is equal to F of B, but when this A is equal to F of A exists, here A and F of A are not same, B and F of B are not same, but we need to introduce a inverse function, then only they are same, because of invertibility. Because F inverse invertible exists, so therefore F is equal, A is equal to F inverse of F of A, B is equal to F inverse of F of B. So therefore, here we can say A is equal to A and B is equal to B. In other words, F of B is belonging to E2. This F inverse is from what? G2 to G1. So what about this? This is belonging to a vertex at G1. So therefore, which implies A comma B belonging to E1, which implies A comma B belonging to E1. So in other words, what we try to show here, I will repeat it once again. Here, this is the statement I have considered from the definition of F is isomorphic. So if F is isomorphic means what? If two vertices are adjacent in G1, the corresponding vertex set is also adjacent in G2. So therefore, that's why I use the word if and only if. Now I take F of A, F of B belonging to E2. Now F of A, F of B belonging to E2 because I want to show adjacency will also preserve in F inverse because F inverse is from G2 to G1 here. So if I take F of A and F of B are adjacent in E2, if and only if they are adjacent in E1, means other hand. So therefore, A is equal to what here? A is not even F of A. A is equal to F inverse of F of A because I am starting with this function F inverse from G2 to G1. So therefore, A is equal to F inverse F of A, B is equal to F inverse into F of B. So this is also one vertex, this is also one vertex. They are similar, not exactly A. Since F is invertible, so therefore F inverse of F of A is A, F inverse of F of B is B. So therefore, if F inverse of F of A, F inverse of F of B is belonging to this graph G2, so then obviously they are belonging to G1. That is A comma B is belonging to E1. So therefore, adjacency preserved here. In other words, if F of A and F of B belong to E2, if and only if A comma B belong to G1. In other words, F inverse of F of A. So therefore, I will make a statement very important next similar to this statement, that is if F of A comma F of B belonging to graph G2, that is let F of A comma F of B is belonging to G2 if and only if not A comma B belonging to E2, sorry, not G2 here, it is E2. F of A and F of B is belonging to G2 if and only if it is not F A, it is F inverse of F of A. Similarly, like this, F inverse of F of A comma F inverse of F of B is belonging to edge set E1. So what is F inverse of F of A? Now I considered here A. What is F inverse of F of B? We have considered here B. So which implies A comma B belong to E1. So exactly similar to this statement in the reverse manner. So therefore we can say F inverse is also preserves the adjacency. So therefore F inverse from G2 to G1 is isomorphic. Is inverse isomorphic. So you can ask me the question, I am not cross-checked with the cardinality of vertex set. Why? Because I am taking up a same graph here. Since G1 to G2 is isomorphic means what? If G1 has 5 vertex, G2 has also 5 vertex. So therefore, I am taking it in the same graph G1 and G2 to prove F inverse from G2 to G1. These two G2 and G1 are same graph. So therefore, it is not necessary here to check the cardinality of vertex set. In other words, the number of vertices. No need to cross check that point because I am taking up a same graph G1 and G2 here. So therefore, it is not necessary to cross check with the cardinality of a vertex set. But the major point we need to cross check here adjacency. That's why I have done this steps to just verify whether adjacency will preserve or not. Here adjacency will preserve, so therefore F inverse is also an isomorphic. So this is all about the isomorphic of a graph. Now we'll move to the next concept called complement of a graph. Now we'll move to the next concept called complement of a graph. So you can say it is a complementary graph also. So again, first I will write down the definition, but then I will explain by taking up an example here. The graph G bar is complementary graph of a graph G1 of a graph G if a pair of vertices are adjacent, if a pair of vertices are adjacent in G, then they are not adjacent. They are not adjacent in G bar. So according to this definition, we have taken two graphs G and G bar here. So if a pair of vertices are adjacent in G, the same pair of vertices they are not adjacent in a graph G bar. So then I can say G bar is a complementary graph of a graph G. So I'll consider an example here. Let us consider G. V1, V2, V3 and V4. Here this is a given graph. I want to find out the complementary graph G bar. I try to find out the complementary graph of a G. According to this definition, if two pair of vertices are adjacent in G, they are not adjacent in G bar. But the question is, what about the number of vertices? The answer to this question is, if you have a 4 vertex in a graph G, yes, exactly the same number of vertices should be there in graph G bar. So therefore, I will take the same set of vertices, that is V1, V2, V3, V4. But according to the definition of a complementary graph, that is G bar is a complementary graph, if a pair of vertices, say for example, V1 and V2 are adjacent in G, so therefore V1 and V2 are not adjacent in G bar. V2 and V3 are adjacent in G, so these two not necessary be adjacent. V4 and V3 are adjacent, yes, not necessary be adjacent. So V1 and V2 are adjacent in G, so they are not adjacent in G. But V1 and V3 are not adjacent in G, so therefore I will draw a line. V1 and V3 are connected in G bar. Similarly, V4 and V2 are not connected, I will draw a line. So then this G bar is called complementary graph of graph G. So G bar is called a complementary graph of a G. So in other words, if any two vertices are adjacent in G, they are not adjacent in G bar. So V4 and V3 are adjacent in G, V4 and V3 are not adjacent in G bar. So then this gray bar is called a complementary graph of G. You can ask me the question whether G is a complementary graph of G bar. Yes. If G bar is given, try to draw G. Obviously, V1, V2 are not connected in G bar, V1, V2 are connected in G. Therefore, G is a complementary graph of a G bar. So, next question is whether they are similar or not is the question. In this graph, they are not similar. Sometimes, even though we try to find out the complementary graph of a graph, at that time, there is a chance that they exist similar graph. Similar means exactly the same, but vertex is different here. So at that time, we can show that those two graphs are isomorphic. So those two graphs are isomorphic means what? They are one-to-one correspondence and one-to correspond. So even though the complementary graphs may be isomorphic, if they are isomorphic, then we can say it is a self-complementary graph. So I will, before going to the next concept, I will take up one more example corresponding to the complementary graph. Let us consider G here V1, V2, V3, V4 and V5. So this is a graph. Very first step is we try to find out the complementary graph of graph G here. So what is the complementary graph of a graph G? So I will represent it as a G bar. First and foremost question is vertex set is similar here. So therefore V1, V2, V3, V4 and V5 vertex set is similar. But according to the definition of a complementary graph, if two pair of vertices are adjacent in G, they are not adjacent in G bar. In other words, conversely, on the other hand, if two pair of vertices are not adjacent in G, they are adjacent in G bar. So here V1 is adjacent with V2 and V5, so they are not adjacent in G bar, but they are adjacent. V1, V4 and V1, V3 are adjacent in G bar. So this is done. Next, V1, V5, it is done. V2, if you take V2, V2 is adjacent with V1 in there, so it is not considered here. V3 is also not considered. V2, V4 and V5, we need to consider. So now V3 is adjacent with V2 and V4, we need to consider with V1 and V5. So V1 is already considered. So this is V5. So V4 is adjacent with V5 and V3, we need to draw V1 and V2. So therefore V4 is connected with V2 and V1. V5, this V5 is connected with V4 and V1 in this graph, but here I have considered V5 is adjacent with V2 and V3. So now G bar is complementary graph of G. Complementary graph of a G. Now I will show one important concept for this example exclusively because it is a very important graph and very interesting graph here. What I will do, I will redraw this graph in a similar manner. Before going to the next step, I will ask a question myself that whether G graph and G bar are same or not, just for the sake of visualization, picturization. Answer to the question is what? G and G bar, they are not at all similar for the sake of just visualization of two graphs. Now what I will do, I will show G bar and G, they are same graph. I am not here using any isomorphic definition at all, just a redraw picture. I will just read out the picture and I will show they are same. What I will do, I will change the arrangement of the vertices here. V1, V4, V3, because V1 and V4 are connected and V3 are connected. So therefore V1, so V1 here, I'll take it as a V4, I'll take it as a V3. So now V1 and V4, V3 are connected. Now V3 and V5 are connected here. So I will take V3 and V5 and here. V5 and V2 are connected. So therefore V5 and V2 are connected. So now V4 and V2 are connected. V4 and V2 are connected. Now observe G and G bar. But the vertex name is different, but the visualization of a graph G and G bar are same now. Here V1 stands for V1, V5 stands for V4, V2 stands for V3, V4 stands for V2, V3 stands for V5. So then these two graphs are exactly the same. But the question is, we try to prove using the basic terminologies what we have learnt in the previous concepts. That is called isomorphism of a graph. First and foremost thing is, vertex set is same or not? Yes, vertex set is similar. I try to prove the adjacency here. Since f from G to G bar I am considering here, if V1 is belonging to G, f of V1 is belonging to in G bar. So what is f of V1 in this graph? Here f of V1 is V1. So this is the first vertex. If V2 is belonging to G, so f of V2 is belonging to G bar. So which implies, what is f of V2 here? V2 stands for f of V3. Similarly, if V3 is belonging to G, f of V3 is belonging to G bar. So which implies f of V3 is equal to, here V3, there we have V5. So it is V5. Now if V4 is belonging to G, f of V4 is belonging to G bar. So which implies f of V4, here V4, here V2 in this graph, which is equal to V2. So if V5 belonging to G, V5 belonging to G bar. So which implies, what is f of V5 here? F of V5 is V4. So now here we need to develop an adjacency also, but I will not write in detail everything on the board. I will just explain by taking up two set of vertices. V1 and V2 are connected in graph G. So corresponding vertices on G bar are V1 corresponding to f of V1. F of V1 is V1 again. So therefore it is V1. So I am considering here V1 and V2. So now V1 we have considered. Now I will take V2 in graph G. If V2 in graph G, f of V2 in graph G bar. What is f of V2 in graph G bar? It is V3. So now this is V3. Now answer to the question, V1 and V2 are adjacent or in graph G? V1 and V2 are adjacent in graph G. The question is, f of V1, f of V2 are adjacent or not in G bar? Yes, they are adjacent because f of V1 is equal to V1, f of V2 is equal to V3. So therefore V1 and V3 are adjacent in G. So similarly we can develop adjacency also. So then these f and G bar is isomorphic. So then this f of G to G bar isomorphic. So if F is isomorphic, so then we can say it is a self-complementary. Now I will write the next definition, self-complementary graph. Self-complementary graph. If G bar is a complementary graph of G, is said to be, if G bar is said to be self-complementary, if G bar is said to be a self-complementary graph of a graph G, if F from G to G bar is isomorphic. If G to G bar is isomorphic. So you can ask me the question whether all the complementary graphs are self-complementary. No, only few very beautiful, some important graphs, or in other words, some graphs are self-complementary, not all graphs are self-complementary here. So therefore, this type of graphs are said to be a self-complementary graph. So just for the sake of curiosity, I will draw a graph to convince the same definition once again. Just for curiosity, I am drawing one more graph here. Here I am taking it as V1, V2, V3 and V4 just for curiosity. I am taking it as G1 and G2. Just for curiosity, I am A, B, C and D. Just for curiosity I am asking. Here these G1 and G2 are isomorphic because we have proved in the earlier section, but they are not complementary. Very important is they are not complementary. So therefore, why? Because V1 and V4 are adjacent here, G1, A and B, T are also adjacent in G bar. So therefore, they are not complementary graphs, but they are isomorphic. So therefore, sometimes two graphs may be isomorphic, they are not maybe the complementary of the graph. On the other hand, if you can take a G bar is a complementary graph, G bar they are not at all isomorphic sometimes. So only for few cases, the complementary graph is isomorphic to the original graph. At that time, we can say it is a self-complementary graph. So here G1 and G2 are isomorphic, but they are not complementary graphs. That's why just for curiosity I have given this example, not so important, corresponding to the self-complementary. Now, right now we have considered one example here. So that is G. I'll redraw the graph once again. So this is the graph G, what I have considered here. It is V1, V2, V3, V4 and V5, and this complementary graph is, the complementary graph is V1, V3, V4, V2, V5, V3. So G and G bar are complementary graph here. So G bar is complementary of G, in other words, G is complementary of G bar, both are same. And first and foremost thing is whether G and G bar, or in other words, G bar is self-complementary or not. In other words, G is self-complementary or not. Yes, for both, reverse G and G bar are self-complementary here. Therefore, here G is self-complementary. Now, observe the cardinality of a graph G here. Here I will consider the cardinality of graph G, the cardinality of edge set of a graph, not cardinality of a graph. Cardinality of edge set of a graph G I have considered here. So which is equal to, so here cardinality means the number of edges presented in a graph G. So how many edges are there in graph G? 5 edges. Similarly, how many edges are there in graph G bar? Here E of G bar stands for the cardinality of edge set of a graph G bar. So therefore, the total number of edges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again it is also the same. Here I try to develop one relation because I am using this relation in the next example. So therefore, the total number of edges E of G bar is 5 plus 5, which is 10. So this is one example I have considered, a very particular example. If I try to generalize it, it is m into m minus 1 divided by 2. Here m stands for number of vertices. Here m stands for number of vertices. Here m stands for the number of vertices. I cross verify with the same example. What will be the number of vertices are there in G? It is 5. So cardinality of V is equal to 5. So what is the cardinality of V? Again it is also same. So therefore the total number of vertices in G is 5. Similarly, the total number of vertices in G bar is also 5. So therefore m is equal to 5 here. So if I substitute m is equal to 5 in this expression, so that is 5 into 5 minus 1 divided by 2, so which implies 5 into 4 divided by 2, 2 get cancelled. So therefore 5 into 2 is equal to 10. So therefore this represents the total number of edges in G and G bar together is m and m minus 1 divided by 2. So because why I have used this particular expression, because I want before going to the next question, that is example, I want to use this expression in the next example. That's why I consider this concept. So now in general, the total number of edges in G and G bar together is given by m into m minus 1 divided by 2. So now we'll move to the next example. Example, show that a graph is self-complementary graph. A graph is self-complementary graph if it has 4n or 4n plus 1 vertices. 4n or 4n plus 1 vertices, where n is non-negative integers, where n is non-negative integers. See here, why I have taken this particular question, because I want to answer one important question regarding the self-complementary graph. The question is, what will be the minimum number of vertices are required to say graph is a self-complementary graph? This is a very important question. I try to convince using this example. I will repeat that question once again. What will be the minimum number of vertices are required to cross-check whether a graph is self-complementary or not? Because why I am addressing this question particular, because in exam or something they may ask you like that question, cross verify whether graph is self-complementary or not. In a quiz also they may ask the question whether below graph is isomorphic, self-complementary or not. At that time, if you know this basic property of a self-complementary graph, if graph is less than that number of vertices, you can directly say G or G bar is not self-complementary. Straightforward you can say G bar is or G is self-complementary, not a complementary graph based on this property. So to address this question, I will solve this example, then I will answer to the question what will be the minimum number of vertices are required. See, the question is, if it is self-complementary graph, then it has 4n or 4n plus 1 number of vertices we need to prove. What I will do, first I will consider a graph G. Let G be a graph. Keep it in mind, if I am using a word simple graph means it is not a directed graph, it is not a multi-graph, because in the very first class I have very clear that it is always a simple graph. So instead of writing every time simple graph, I am just using a word called graph. Here graph stands for a simple graph. Let G be a graph with a vertex at V and adjacent E. Here I will only concentrate it on number of vertices here. So therefore, what I will do, I will take a cardinality of V is equal to M. I will take the cardinality of V is equal to M, because just now I have used one property, that's why I use cardinality of V is equal to M here. Since G is self-complementary, graph, so therefore cardinality of E of G plus E of G bar is equal to M into M minus 1 divided by 2. So this is the total number of edges are present in a graph. Now one important question is whether the number of edges in graph G and whether the number of edges in graph G bar, they are same or not. In other words, they are equal or not. The answer to this question is yes. Why? Because I am considering it is a self-complementary, because the definition of self-complementary itself suggests that F is isomorphic. F is isomorphic means what? F from G to G bar is isomorphic means if G has n number of edges, G bar has also n number of edges. So therefore, number of edges are same in G and G bar here. So therefore, if the number of edges in G and number of edges in G bar they are same, what about sum of these two? So this is equal to 2 times E of edge is equal to M into M minus 1 divided by 2. Why? Because E of G is equal to E of G bar. So this is also because what? Since G is self-complementary graph. So because G is self-complementary, so therefore G and G bar has the same number of edges. So therefore E of G is equal to E of G bar. So if you substitute this concept here, this will get 2 times E of g is equal to m into m minus 1 divided by 2. So this is already done in the that's why in the previous example. So which implies cardinality of E of g is equal to m into m minus 1 divided by 4. See, if you have to prove that part, I'll consider one simple example. A into b divided by 4 is either A is divisible by 4 or B is divisible by 4. So then A into B is divisible by 4. So therefore, I use that technique, which implies m is divisible by 4 or m minus 1 is divisible by 4. So therefore, we need to show that m is equal to 4n. So if m is divisible by 4 means what? M is always 4 times n for all n is equal to 1, 2, so and so forth infinity. Or m minus 1 is equal to 4n, so n is equal to 1, 2, so and so forth. Even though you can take it as n is equal to 0, it will not make any sense because graph does not exist with 0 vertex. So therefore, I have not taken n is equal to 0 here. I will repeat it once again. Why I have not taken n is equal to 0? If I take n is equal to 0, m becomes 0. So if m is 0 means what? The number of vertices are 0 here. If number of vertices are 0 means graph does not exist. So therefore, it will not make any sense to take m is equal to 0. So therefore, I have started with n is equal to 1 to infinity. So which implies m is equal to 4n or m is equal to 4n plus 1. So therefore, m is equal to 4n and 4n plus 1. Now the question is, what will be the minimum number of vertices are required for a self-complementary graph? So the minimum number of vertices are required here at least 4. Why? If I take n is equal to 1, it is 4, it is 5. If I take n is equal to 2, it is 8, it is 9. So it will goes on increase as n goes on infinity. So therefore, here minimum number of vertices are 4n here. So therefore, n is equal to 1, I take it as a 4. So this is the answer to this question, because if it is a self-complementary graph, so therefore the number of vertices are 4n or 4n plus 1. Here m stands for cardinality of V. Here cardinality V means what? Number of vertices. Here cardinality of V is the number of vertices, so therefore m is equal to 4n or 4n plus 1. So this completes the solution of this question. Now we will move to the next very important concept in graph theory, which has a vast application in the engineering field. So the next topic is Eulerian and Hamiltonian graphs. Eulerian and Hamiltonian graphs. So before going to the theoretical definition of this, first I will explain or try to convince by taking up a practical example to why we need to study the Eulerian and Hamiltonian graphs here. But I will not take an exclusive example for both Eulerian and Hamiltonian, but general example I will take it to explain the concept of Eulerian and Hamiltonian graphs here. I will consider one example here, Postman example. Suppose there is a village. I will take a village here. So I will take it as a V. It is a village. So village is a set of number of houses, so where number of houses are with streets, street 1, street 2, street 3, so on and so forth. Here the question is, there is a postman, who always visit a village to deliver the post to each and every home in a village. So there are a number of streets are there in a village. We try to help a postman, means we try to reduce the work of a postman such that he will not visit a street again and again. Suppose if I want to deliver a post in street S1, he will not visit the same street again S2, S1 again. So we try to develop an algorithm in such a way that we try to reduce the work of a postman, where he can't move or he can't cross the street again and again. Instead of wasting his time, we try to reduce his work as well as time by using an algorithm. So what is the major algorithm is used here? See, suppose every street is connected by an road. I will take S1 and S2. In other words, you can take it as a home also, home, or some points it is treated as a vertex. The road links between two streets is an edge. I am taking it in that way. So he has to walk around these vertices or edges. So here, before going to the actual theoretical definitions of Eulerian and Hamiltonian, we need to have a basic definitions which are required to develop a algorithm where we can reduce the work of a postman here. For that, it is required the basic terminologies called path, cycle, walk and circuits. First I will write down the definitions, then I will explain the definition by taking up an example here. So this is the main application of Eulerian Hamiltonian. So you can have n number of examples in computer science field, chemistry field, so on and so forth. Just I have taken a simple example. I try to why I am studying this Eulerian Hamiltonian. So these two graphs basically helps to develop an algorithm to reduce their work basically. In other words, salesman also you can say, salesman examples, so on and so forth. Or traffic examples also solved using these two major concepts. So first I will write down the definition, that V0 and Vn be two vertices in a graph G. In a graph G, a path of length n from V0 to Vn, from V0 to Vn is a sequence of vertices and edges. Sequence where every vertex is followed by an edge. So this is called a path here. So now, what is the meaning of path? I have written on the board. If you take any two vertices in a graph G, they are not the same, they may be same or may not be same. V0 and V0 are two different vertices. If I have tried to develop a sequence of vertices and edges, then that is said to be a path. Let us consider a graph here. So that is G. I try to explain the definition of a path here. V0, V2, V3, V4. So there are 4 vertices. I will name these edges as E1, E2, E3, E4, E5 and E6. So I try to explain you what is the meaning of path. So it is as good as a salesman problem or a postman problem. Suppose he tried to put or he tried to deliver the post in home V1, V3 and V4. So what will be the path he has to follow? Here only he has to deliver a post. I have missed one more here, V1, V3, V4, it is V2. Only he has to develop a post to vertex V1, vertex V3 and vertex V4. Here V1, V3, V4 are only the homes, what you can say, where postman has to deliver the post, and edges are represented the path or a road he has to follow from vertex V1 to V2, so and so forth. So now I try to develop a path where postman has to follow this path to deliver the post. Only he has to deliver the post for vertex V1, V2 and V3, sorry V1, V3 and V4. So the path is V1, he has to go along edge E1, then he has to deliver V3, again he has to go along with edge E2, then he has to deliver vertex V4. So the question is, how many vertices are there in this path? So this is one path. The number of vertices are there in path are 3. So therefore, what will be the length here? Length n stands for V0 to Vn is sequence of vertices and edges. So the path here, sequence of vertices and edges. But here it is not a sequence. What we need to follow here is, we need to follow a sequence vertex, edge, vertex, edge, vertex, edge and vertex. We can't end with edge because every edge is connected with 2 vertices. We have to start with a vertex, we have to end with a vertex. We can't start with edge, we can't end with edge. Here, if you are saying a path, you have to start with a vertex, you have to end with a edge. So now, I will try to write one more path here in this example. V1, E4, V1, E4, V2, E6, V4, E2, V3, E1 and E1. So this is also one path where postman has to travel to deliver the post. So I will give it as a path here. So this is called the path. It is a sequence of vertices and edges here. So you may ask me the question. Here first starting point and end points are same. Here starting points and end points are different here. So if starting point and end points are same, then that path is called a circuit, or in other words a cycle. So even though these paths are also called walk. If starting point and end point are same, this walk is called a closed walk. This walk is called a closed walk. So we can't say it is open walk. But if a starting point and end points are same, then that path is called a closed path or a closed walk, you can say. So now why I am dealing with this path definition is useful by dealing with the Eulers and Hamiltonian graph. So first I will directly start with Hamiltonian. So if time permits in this class, I will go ahead with Eulerian, otherwise I will continue in the next class. So first I will start with the Hamiltonian graph here. So first I will write down the definition of Hamiltonian graph, then I will take up the example because it is very easy to understand. Hamiltonian graph a simple path in a connected graph is Hamiltonian a path is said to be Hamiltonian path if it contains every vertex. If it contains every vertex. A cycle in a connected graph that contains every vertex in a Hamiltonian path. Every vertex in a Hamiltonian path. A connected graph that contains a Hamiltonian cycle is called Hamiltonian graph. So first I will try to explain the meaning of Hamiltonian cycle, Hamiltonian path. Then I will discuss what is a Hamiltonian graph, and I will discuss whether all the graphs are Hamiltonian or not in the next part. In the very first part, I will start with the Hamiltonian path, what is Hamiltonian cycle, and what is Hamiltonian graph. So now after that, I will try to convince whether all graphs are Hamiltonian or not. So starting with the first example, suppose G is a graph vertex V1, V2, V3, V4, E1, E2, E3, E4. So first and foremost thing is, what is a path is the question. Just now we have gone through the definition of a path. It is a sequence of vertex and edge. It is simple. So we have to write it. But if I am trying to define that path is Hamiltonian path, what is the property we need to impose on the path? Whether all the paths are Hamiltonian is the question. No, not all the paths are Hamiltonian paths. Therefore, we need to impose one condition. What is that condition? That path contains every vertex. That path contains every vertex. So for this question, for this example, I will write path here. So first path P1, I will write V1, E1, V2, E2, V3. P2, V1, V4, V4, E3, V3. Path P3, V1, E1, V2, E2, V3, E3, V4, one path. P4, V1, E1, V2, E2, V3, E3, V4, E4 and E1. First I will deal with the Hamiltonian path here. According to this definition, the path includes every vertex in a graph G. It is a condition what we are imposing on a path. So first, before going to the Hamiltonian path, first I will discuss with the path. In the definition of a path, we will never impose any condition that only we have to select vertex or repeated vertex, not repeated vertex, repeated edges, not repeated edges. These properties are not mentioned in a path. It is a simple definition that a sequence of a vertex and edge. That's it. So therefore, if you see all the P1, P2, P3, P4 are path or not is the first question. The answer to this question is yes. All the sequence what we have defined here, P1, P2, P3, P4, they are called a path. Now the question is whether that path is Hamiltonian path or not. What is the condition we need to impose on the Hamiltonian path? That path includes all the vertices. Now start with the first one. Here the path V1, E1, V2, E2, V3. First and foremost thing is whether the path started with a vertex and with a vertex or not. Yes, all the paths are here started with a vertex and end with a vertex. This is a very major or common factor we need to know. So, and the thing is whether this is a path or not. Yes, this is a path. But whether this is a Hamiltonian path or not, we need to cross check. What is the definition of Hamiltonian path? That path contains every vertex. How many vertex are there in this graph? There are 4 vertex, V1, V2, V3, V4. But how many vertex are present in path P1? V1, V2, V3 are the only vertex present in path P1. So V4 is missing here. So therefore, which is a contradiction to the definition that every vertex is present in a path. So therefore, P1 need not be a Hamiltonian path. What about P2? V1 is there, V4 is there, V3 is there. V2 is missing vertex. So therefore, according to the definition, every vertex should be present in a path. So therefore, P2 is also not Hamiltonian. Coming back to P3, all the vertex are present or not. He will not talk about edge. Keep it in mind, he will not talk about edge. Only he will bother about the vertex. Edge may be repeated, may not be repeated. Because he is only concentrating on vertex. So therefore, edge may be repeated, may not be repeated. So therefore, don't worry about edge, only concentrate it on vertex. So therefore, V1, V2, V3, V4. So therefore, every vertex is present in a path. So we can say it is a Hamiltonian path. So now, this is also Hamiltonian path, V1, V2, V3, V4 and I missed it here, it is V1. So therefore, every vertex is present in P4, it is also a Hamiltonian path. Now, what about cycle? It starts with one point and end point, therefore P is called a cycle. If Hamiltonian cycle is present, so then we can say this graph is a Hamiltonian graph. So therefore, here given graph is Hamiltonian. So now we cross verify in the similar manner whether the graph is Hamiltonian or not. Okay, so now we can verify some other example whether they are Hamiltonian or not. What I So that's why I told previously we consider some examples. We can show that all are Hamiltonian or not. So I will repeat it once again, the definition. So before going to the definition, first I will draw the three graph here. G1, so this is graph G1. I will name it as A, C, second graph G2, So I have considered these three examples such that I try to convince whether G1 is Hamiltonian, G2 and G3 are Hamiltonian graphs or not. Again I will repeat the definition once again. Hamiltonian graph. First and foremost thing is we need to discuss the Hamiltonian path. If it contains every vertex in a path. So if it contains every vertex means the question will repeat whether vertex are repeat or not. So here the answer to this question is vertex need not be repeated. He will not talk about edge, he will only talk about vertex. So therefore vertex are not repeated here. So that is called Hamiltonian path. If end point and starting points are same, that is called Hamiltonian cycle. Means it is a connected graph, it contains every vertex in Hamiltonian path. So that is called a Hamiltonian cycle. There is a closed one, closed path. And last one is Hamiltonian graph. If a graph is said to be Hamiltonian, if it includes Hamiltonian cycle, means closed path, closed Hamiltonian path is there, then that is said to be a Hamiltonian graph. I will repeat it once again. In Hamiltonian path, vertex are not repeated. Maybe edges are repeated because definition need not deal with edge. It is only deal with the vertex. So therefore, according to this definition, every vertex it is includes and vertex are not repeated here. Only we have to pass through the vertex only once. So now using that definition, we try to develop a Hamiltonian path for the first graph. We try to develop a path A, C. Here I will not mention edge because understood that A and C are connected by an edge. I will repeat it once again. If two vertex I am mentioning that two vertex are adjacent by an edge E here. So therefore A to C, A to C, C to H, H to G, D, B, E, F and A. A to C, C to H, G, D, B, E, F and A. The question is, first and foremost thing is all the vertices are present or not? Yes, all the vertices are present. So therefore, it is a Hamiltonian path, and vertex are not repeated here. It is important, Hamiltonian path. And what about starting point and end point? They are same. So it is called a Hamiltonian cycle. So then it is a Hamiltonian graph. So G is Hamiltonian graph. So in G2, we cross check whether is it a Hamiltonian or not. First and foremost thing is we develop a path A to B, C, D, G, F, E. This is one path where all the vertices are present, so it is called an Hamiltonian path. But Hamiltonian cycle D, G, F, E, again D, and again A. So it is a closed walk. I will agree with that. The second path is a closed path. So this is a closed path. I will agree with that because starting point and end points are same. But the question is it Hamiltonian walk or sorry, Hamiltonian path? Both are same here. It is not Hamiltonian here. So if I neglect this, so okay, I will consider it here. It is not Hamiltonian path. Because the vertices D are repeated twice. Here, excluding endpoints, all the vertices are, we have to pass exactly once. But here, we are trying to pass the vertex D more than one time. So therefore, here, this is not a Hamiltonian path. So therefore, this is not Hamiltonian path, means this is not Hamiltonian cycle or a closed path. So you can say it is a closed path. But this is a Hamiltonian path. I believe we agree with that because the path includes all the vertices exactly once. So therefore it is called a Hamiltonian path, but this is not Hamiltonian cycle because in a cycle the path is passing a vertex more than once. That is vertex D here. So therefore G2 is not a Hamiltonian graph. Okay, here I will develop some path for the graph G3. So first path is A, B, C. Second path is A, B, E, F. Third path is P3, A, B, E, D. So it is not possible to pass through all the vertex at least once in a path. So therefore we can't say G3 is a Hamiltonian. So therefore G3 is not Hamiltonian graph. So therefore we can straight away say that not all graphs are Hamiltonian. Only few cases where those graphs will satisfy these properties, we can say it is a Hamiltonian graph. So this is all about the explanation regarding the Hamiltonian graph. So for that, I will write down three important theorems based on this Hamiltonian graph. Based on these three important theorems, we will solve some examples. Proofs are not so important, so that's why I am not considering proof here. Just I will write down the theorems. Because why I am writing, because I am using these theorems while solving the example. So that's why first I will write down the theorem on the board, where n is greater than or equal to 3 is Hamiltonian This is the one theorem. Second theorem. Is Hamiltonian if the degree of every vertex is greater than or equal to n by 2. I will write a third theorem here. Theorem 3. In the complete graph with n is an odd number, greater than or equal to 3, there are n minus 1 divided by 2 edge disjoint Hamiltonian cycles. Disjoint Hamiltonian cycles. So first we'll solve examples based on these three theorems. First question is, so before going to the next question, I try to convey the message based on Hamiltonian theorems. If you observe this n is greater than or equal to 3 everywhere. Why? Because if you want to have a cycle, at least 3 vertex should be there. I will repeat it once again. If you have a cycle in a graph, at least 3 vertex is there. Then only we can say it is a cycle. If you have a two vertex, we can't develop a cycle in a graph. So therefore, at least 3 vertex are required. So therefore, minimum vertex are required is here to have a Hamiltonian graph or a cycle is 3. So therefore, in every example, we will always deal with n is greater than or equal to 3. Example is first one. Prove that prove that the complete graph with cardinality of V is greater than or equal to 3 is a Hamiltonian graph. Solution. See here, since the graph is complete and vertex set is always greater than 3, so it may be Hamiltonian, may not be Hamiltonian, just by observing it. So we need to show that complete graph is all complete graph with vertex is greater than or equal to 3, vertex set is greater than or equal to 3, it is a Hamiltonian graph. So to prove that it is a Hamiltonian graph, there are 3 theorems I am basically using here. A connected graph is Hamiltonian if the sum of degree of every pair of disjoint vertex is greater than or equal to n. This is the one thing. The second one is if it is Hamiltonian graph, the degree of every vertex in a greater than or equal to 1 by n by 2. The third one is it is Hamiltonian and the number of vertices is greater than or equal to 3, then there are n minus 1 divided by 2 edge disjoint Hamiltonian cycles. We can use any of these 3 theorems to prove whether Kn is complete graph is Hamiltonian or not. So first and foremost thing is, what is the meaning of complete graph? Every pair of vertex is connected by an edge. So therefore it is denoted, represented as Kn. I will start with the first line, a complete graph. That Kn is a complete graph with n vertices. Kn is a complete graph with n vertices. So therefore, the cardinality of V is equal to n. What is the given data? N is greater than or equal to 3. What is the properties of a complete graph? The property of complete graph I am using is here. Since the cardinality of V is equal to n, the degree of each vertex in complete graph Kn is n minus 1. So one of the property of complete graph I am using here, degree of each vertex is n minus 1. That is, degree of each vertex is equal to n minus 1. So y is equal to 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Since n is greater than or equal to 3, which implies n minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So here n minus 3 is greater than or equal to 3. We have to choose in n such a way that n minus 3 is always greater than or equal to 0. In other words, n is more than 3 here. So if n is greater than 3 or equal to 3, I will try to link this definition with this n minus 1 graph. See here, if the degree of each vertex is n minus 1, so we try to look out that what about n here. So n is greater than or equal to 3, so we can consider n minus 2 is a strictly positive number. Why n minus 1 is strictly positive number here? Because n is greater than or equal to 3, because n is greater than or equal to 3, n is not less than 3. So therefore, if you take any n is equal to 3 greater than this 3, n minus 2 is always positive number here. So this holds good because n is greater than or equal to 3 whole square. So therefore, which implies I will add n on both sides n, so which implies 2n minus 2 which is greater than n. So that is 2n minus 2 which is greater than n, which implies 2 into n minus 1 is greater than n. Now the question is, I will divide n by 2 on both the sides, so therefore n minus 1 is greater than n by 2. So what is n minus 1 here? N minus 1 stands for degree of each vertex. So n minus 1 stands for degree of each vertex here. N minus 1 stands for degree of each vertex. So therefore, degree of each vertex is equal to n minus 1, which implies degree of each vertex is greater than n by 2. Now we need to see which theorem will holds good for this. Here they will never talk about degree of each vertex because they only talk about degree of every pair of vertex. Here degree of every vertex is greater than or equal to n by 2. If a degree of every pair of vertex is greater than or equal to n by 2, then the graph is Hamiltonian graph. So therefore, in a graph G, the vertex is greater than or equal to 3 and degree of each vertex is greater than 3 or equal to 3 or equal to 3, then G is Hamiltonian. Then G is Hamiltonian. So therefore, here I am using the theorem 2 to prove this, to solve this question, because I end up with degree of each vertex is greater than n by 2. So that is degree of each vertex is greater than n by 2. So then the graph is said to be Hamiltonian graph. So still some more examples we need to solve based on these theorems on Hamiltonian graph. In the next class we try to complete this Hamiltonian graph, and we'll move ahead with the next concept called Eulerian graph in the next class. Thank you.